Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Home Service Hustle. I'm your host, Jonathan Bannister, and today I'm with Tucker Yarbrough. Tucker is the CFO and ownership member of Yarbrough Sons Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing based out of Oklahoma City. He leads the finance, marketing, strategic growth alongside his brothers, Will and Colby, and his dad, who's still in the business. Welcome to the show, Tucker.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. So look, some of the things you said you're known for is working hard to outwork your own stupidity. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's a saying of my dad's is
Okay.
anytime that somebody, anytime that we bring on somebody or a new employee or anything like that, one of the things that we're always quick to remind everybody is, hey, there's nothing that we can tear up that we can't fix with time, effort, and money. And so if we just are honest, whenever you screw up, if you're honest, people are pretty forgiving. And I think part of that comes into the reality of it is you're only ever as lucky as how hard you work. And so outworking our own stupidity is, how you make good decisions is you make a few bad ones,
Yeah.
and you learn from them, you implement them, and you're wiser for it. And so I think when it comes to outworking your own stupidity, it's leading with a humble heart, leading with an open hand, and sharing with your team and saying, hey, we might not do things perfectly, but we're dang sure working hard to make sure we're doing things better.
I love that. So I mean, it kind of leads into another thing that you said you're known for on the transparency side, right? Your undying belief that contractors should live by transparency, both internally and externally. Talk about that. Is that something that was passed down from your dad, and it's like built into the culture of y'all's business?
I think yeah, so dad has always led with mom and dad led with a transparent hand, and we've kind of, me, Will, and Colby, we've kind of poured gas on that in the last probably 5, 6 years. We joined a couple of best practices groups and learned from people who were smarter than us. And so we've been a profit sharing company for the last 6, 7 years now, sharing the numbers with the whole team. And I think something that entrepreneurs in any field, but I think in the trades especially, can get caught with is their team gets a misunderstanding of, well, you're charging all this money for this product, or you're
Mm-hmm.
making this amount of money, and it's I'm only getting paid this amount. And so one of the things that we kind of came to the realization of was, we need to start sharing with our team where we're at, where we're going, and kind of what that vision is, and how much money it, one, takes to make the business run, and two, how much money the business makes. Because regardless of what we do, if we don't tell our team anything, they're going to come up with their own reality. They're
Yeah.
going to imagine whatever they want to imagine. So if it's good, they're going to be thinking, well, Darren and Lisa, they're sitting on the beach every weekend, drinking Mai Tais
Yeah.
and having a big time. Or if it's a little bit bad, there's a pretty quick jump to, well, maybe I need to start looking somewhere else because the signs of growth and the signs of life aren't here. And so what we wanted to do was kind of thread the needle of how to lead with a transparent hand. And there's no better way than, we share the numbers with the team every month. So every month I'll get up on our big TVs in our conference room, and we make breakfast for the whole team. So we call it our profit sharing breakfast day. And so any month that Yarbrough Sons, the company, makes 6% net profit or more, we take 10% of all profits and put it into the profit sharing fund, and share with the team, hey, here's the breakdown. And so I'll go over the P&L on the cost of goods, so above the gross line. I'll show kind of where we're at on, how much revenue do we make in this division? How much did we spend in parts and materials? How much did labor cost in this division? And go all the way down to the gross profit line. And then I lump some overhead all together and say, okay, here's what is in overhead. And then here's how much net profit we're left with at the end of the month. And that it seems to have calmed the waters to where finance is, I think, often a taboo topic to discuss. And what we want to do is just meet it head on and kind of pour water on that situation before it even ever got started, which is, hey, here's one, why you make what you make, here's how much the business makes, and here's what it takes to keep the ship rolling. And I think leading that way has made a much more stable conversation when it comes to recruiting and onboarding and pay and bonus structure and all the like, because ultimately we don't need any more experience.
Yeah.
We all do this for money. And so
Right.
we need to have as clear of a picture painted around the money as we possibly can. And so that's my undying belief that I think that edge that contractors in the next 5, 10 years, especially with the advent of kind of PE making the big push, the edge that family owned or small businesses can have with their team is the financial transparency piece, because it's something that, if it's a small startup, they're probably not going to do. And if it's a big private equity firm, they're not going to do. And so you can edge a market that way of, hey, we treat our people with a ton of respect by showing them here's how the sausage is made.
So was there something that was that tipping factor that the whole family could get behind and say, this is the direction we need to go? Because I'm obviously 6 or 7 years, your dad's ran the business for a long, long time. And that kind of financial transparency wasn't part of his plan. So like, did something happen? And obviously the next follow-up question would be, I'm sure this has just been, absolutely amazing overall as a collective, the feedback and stuff, because I can only imagine you don't have the questions and the concerns and everything else because it's all laid out there.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that happened was, not that it was ever a secret. It was just something that at that time, dad, we were still, 20, 30 people. And so dad was, if the summertime got too busy, he was throwing on a tool belt and getting back after it. And I think what happened in 2017, whenever we kind of made the business practice shift, was we realized, one, this business needs to grow, because at that time, by 2017, me, Will, and Colby had joined full time.
Right.
And we're like, okay, if this thing is going to support all of our families plus our team the way that we want it to, we've got to grow. So we got to learn from people smarter than us. And then two, for years, mom and dad had paid Christmas bonuses, one extra paycheck or whatever it was. They had paid Christmas bonuses just kind of out of the goodness of their heart, not tied to the performance of the business at all. And that year, we had a couple of things hit. We built a new building, some things like that. And so on the profit and loss statement, it was kind of a paper money situation, but
Yeah.
on the profit and loss statement, it said that we lost a couple $100,000. And, so it's like, okay, we can't do that again. That's not something that we can just actively choose to repeat. And so, and that year, mom and dad still elected to pay Christmas bonuses. And so that drove the loss even further. And so it was one of those deals where we kind of had a come to Jesus meeting as a family and said, okay, we've got to figure out a way to tie the bonus structure that we're given to our team to the overall performance of the company, because otherwise there's a disconnect in where money actually comes from. And so that was kind of that first wave. And I think for the first year or two that we did it, it was kind of nobody really paid attention. It wasn't really, because you're going over some mid-level to high-level business stuff. And a lot of times it's like, well, hey, I just want, my paycheck, and that's all I care about. And I don't want to, I don't care about how the business makes money. But over time, I think just through persistence, and we jokingly say it's being willing to die on the treadmill. We're willing to die on that treadmill and just keep showing up. Now it's become an expectation that we're going to share the good, the bad, the ugly, how it happened. For the first 4 months, we're still in the transition of changing our pricing structure. And so the first 4 or 5 months that we shared numbers with the team, it was a loss, a loss, a loss. It was just a bunch of losers, but it was November. And so we're standing up there telling them, hey, most HVAC companies lose money in these months. Most of them lose money in these months. So we could have chosen a more opportunistic time to start sharing numbers, but it is what it is. And I think that's earned a lot of respect, especially from our managers and our team that's, kind of helping lead the culture of the company.
I love it. And I'm sure like people have had to found this like newfound respect for a company they're working for, that they've never seen that kind of transparency and openness ever. So like, when are the like dividends of the profits paid out? Is it the end of year?
So we run profit sharing November 1 to November 1, basically. So we get them paid out before the holidays. That way, everybody can get their Christmas lines in order. But so we run November to November on the profit sharing side of things. Our tax year is still January to December. But we run profit sharing November to November.
I love it. That's super awesome. All right, so look, your company's seen impressive growth in a competitive market. What specific strategies or philosophies do you believe have been some of the key drivers of this success?
Yeah, so I think, oh gosh, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's scarcity drives innovation. There's a quote that's like, scarcity it gives birth to innovation, something like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where our our marketing edge, our go-to-market strategy kind of comes from is, growing up until, we're really ingrained in the business and growing, mom and dad, there wasn't really an advertising strategy. It was put an ad out in the newspaper, sponsor the local ball fields. And beyond that, we're spending less than 1% on total revenue on marketing. And that was kind of it was all word of mouth. It was all referral based, and that, I mean, you can make a lot of good money that way, but it's hard to grow once you reach a certain cap.
Yeah.
Your word of mouth and your referral network, especially out here in a good old Blanchard, Oklahoma. We're a town of little 14,000 people, kind of a bedroom community of Oklahoma City. We serve the whole OKC area, but that's kind of where our home base is at. And so the advertising side of things, whenever we first started pushing on it, like I said, the profit wasn't just huge. So there wasn't just this pile of money to go start pulling from. And so we brought down the local TV networks and, just wanted to see what things costed. And I had just come out of college at that time and had, was full of piss and vinegar and was, thought that I could change the world. And so we brought them down, and the TV networks, was $500 for a 30-second ad. And, all of us, we were just kind of blown away by that. And I just told Dad, I said, okay, I said, and if an impression is an impression, and I can control one of these, give me the $500 and let me go start running ads on YouTube and start running ads on Facebook. And so that was, in 2017, 18, that was kind of our first wave of advertising. It was me and an iPhone, and just recording whatever I could, putting out videos and running YouTube pre-roll and Facebook ads and all that stuff. And so it progressed up until 2021/2. We brought in our internal marketer, Bryce, and because it reached a point where I was doing about 50-50 finances and marketing, and I was doing them both kind of poorly. But I knew that there was so much more that I wanted to do on the marketing side that one, I didn't have the time, and two, I didn't have the ability to do. And so we brought Bryce in, and he's got a background in journalism and filmmaking. And so I wanted our internal marketer to be a first and foremost primarily focused on content creation, because I think when it comes to marketing, it's easy. It's easy to get caught up in the analytics, and it's easy to get caught up in the performance side of it. But I think the thing that gets stepped over a lot of times is the creative is the edge that gives you better returns on your performance marketing.
Yeah.
And so we'd already kind of built ourselves as a couple knuckleheads, me, Will, and Colby, kind of being the face of the company and the front men. And so we brought Bryce in and just poured gas on it. And so we started just making anything and everything, all the videos that we could. We got our managers involved, we got our technicians involved, and just started, day in the life videos, or, breakdown of parts, and talk about transparency. Over the last 2 years, really, our bet has been that the next 5 to 10 years of business belong to the company who's the most transparent, not just with their team, but with their market as well. Yep. And so we started making videos 2.5 years ago, and still do to this day. We just update the library as it goes of our production manager, Keith. He'll break down a furnace, and he'll pull out every part of that furnace and show, okay, here's this motor, and this motor for this furnace costs on average $700 to replace, and we're telling the price in the video. And then every video then gets repurposed to a blog, and then that blog gets indexed by Google and all the LLMs. And so now, like, if you search like HVAC replacement cost Oklahoma in the AI summary of Google and on GPT, 9 times out of 10, we are the primary source that's being pulled from, because we've got 3 to 6 blogs/videos written about this topic that not just shares a theoretical, here's how much it costs, but here's how much it costs when you buy it from us.
Yeah.
And I think we've seen that pay huge dividends. And then in the last year, we've implemented, I built out our own online pricing tool where people can go get a quote instantly online in less than about 2 minutes. And so I built out a online shopping tool where people can go get a quote in less than 2 minutes just by giving us a little bit of information about themselves. And you get a lot of junk leads through there because people just want to see what it is. But on the leads where somebody allows us to go out and confirm the quote, we have a 95% closing rate on those. And in its first 6 months of it operating, we've been able to sell almost $300,000 worth of equipment through it being on our website in 6 months.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think you're a big reader, so I'm sure you've read Marcus Sheraton's book.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I actually just got to see him in person a couple months ago down at a conference in Miami, and he's one of the best presenters I've ever seen
Yeah.
live. And and he just was very blunt that here, you should have already been doing it, but here in the next 6 to 12 months, if you are not extremely transparent with everything in your business, you are going to get left behind. And then and he's like, well, people say, but Marcus, you don't understand my business. And he was like, I don't care what business you're in. You have to be transparent with everything. Like AI is going to eliminate that completely, that you're just going to get pushed down to the bottom, and it's not going to be about rankings anymore. It's going to be about, hey, I need a new water heater, and I need it replaced on Tuesday. It's my only day off. Find me the best company to replace that. Hey, can you let me know how much it's going to be? And can you schedule it for me? Well, but if you don't have everything transparent out there, well, then that bot isn't going to know what to go do for the person that asked for it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's and Marcus Sheridan. So They Ask You Answer. That was one of the books I read that right before we brought Bryce on full time, and that was kind of one of the things that pivoted us that way. Was because I had just such a foundational belief in that the contractor needed to be the engine behind, like, and they all do that, they all need to be this way, but I think we're still lacking that the contractor needs to be the engine that makes their marketing machine turn. Like any vendor out there, and this is something I share with any contractor I talk to, is you can find the best vendor in the world, the best marketer in the world, the best person to plug into your business in the world, but they're only ever going to be as good as you allow them to be. And that being, like, you have to provide them with content. You have to provide them with kind of the back end keys of, here's the things that I want to go to market with. Here's what I want to share with my consumers. Here's what I want to show on my socials. And here's what I'm comfortable with. And so that was kind of the kick in the pants, reading that book was the kick in the pants of, okay, all right, I don't have enough time in the day to produce the stuff that I want to produce. And so I think the lever that we pulled back in 2021, 22 with bringing in an internal marketer, it's allowed us to produce, thousands of hours of YouTube videos that then feed into blogs, that feed into social posts, that feed into, ultimately they might not do the most in views.
Yeah.
However, with the way LLMs are starting to just train and eat up everything, who has the most content out there that is the most digestible wins.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's like my ears are having this like happy dance going on, right? Because I don't ever get to hardly ever talk to a contractor that is doing it this way, right? And it's unfortunate because I think that digital marketing has caused everyone in business, not just home service, but I think everyone in business, it's had them paint this disbelief or unrealistic picture of like return on ad spend. Like you should be able to quantify every single dollar that and look, I used to preach this to our clients. There's a video of me telling a client, he's like, we're going to do 25,000 in radio. And I asked him, have you lost your fucking mind? And he was like, what? And because that's who I used to be, because I didn't believe that spending money on something that you could not quantify to the exact penny was stupid. Yeah. And in reality, now I realize that the people that are saying, if you put $1 in, if you're not making $3 to $5 back, then you shouldn't be doing that digital marketing. I'm just like, I think that's absurd, because the things that you're doing, like you're saying, it may not get a lot of views. You may not get a guaranteed lead from it, but that's not the purpose of it, right? The purpose is strengthening that brand and being the go-to company that people think of whenever they have a problem, whether you've built up enough brand equity with an actual person in Oklahoma, or if the LLMs are just finding y'all naturally by what you've put out there. I think the frustrating thing for us is that we'll talk to some clients sometimes, and we're like, hey, look, we really need to work on brand equity. We have to touch the people 3 to 5 times a week consistently, or the chemical change doesn't happen in the brain. And then some will go, well, what is my return on investment going to be from that? And it's just like, you just kind of throw your hands up, and it's like, well, like the same return that you'd get from your billboards, right? I mean, like, but for some reason, digital has been supposed to be classified as this. You better be able to prove what the return's going to be. And I just think it's just been done wrong. And I love the way y'all are doing it.
Well, and I think the thing that I can't fault anybody for thinking that way, right? Because Google has done what they've done. They're really good at it. Um, it has been irresponsible to not be able to track
Yeah.
everything down to the penny, because Google has made it, they've been the VIG, right? They've been you have
Yeah.
to pay them to get through the door. And
Yeah.
so for the last 15 years, we've been in a space where you put $1 in, you're going to get X amount of leads from it. And if you're charging right, you're going to get 3 to 8 or 10 or whatever your ROAS is. But I think we're going back to almost that oh my gosh, I just lost the name, Ogilvy, I think
Yeah. Yep.
Ogilvy style
Yep.
marketing,
Yep.
where you're not going to be able to track it. And I think it's been like, I mean, Marcus wrote the book. I can't remember whenever he wrote, They Ask You Answer, but like it's 5, 6, 7 years old now at this
Yep.
point. And he was an early adopter on this, which is now the attention is everywhere all the time, all at once, and it's no longer just Google that is the entry point. Someone's going to hear about you through Facebook or through radio or through a billboard or through
Yep.
whatever it may be. And ultimately, I think the thing that we've really taken, and I wish that Bryce and I would have had been proclaiming it on a podcast, because now I'm seeing Gary Vee talk about it on podcasts, and I'm like, man, we could have beat him to the punch on this one. But something that we've been doing for the last year is we take all of our organic social and allow that to index attention. And whatever gets the best attention, I don't care if it's a team picture. I don't care. Most of our stuff isn't selling. All of our stuff is, I mean, almost all the ads we run are a bit of information followed by a call to action. So it's, hey, here's how much this capacitor costs. Blah. If you want to book, click here. And so, but we use the organic algorithm to then dictate what we run as an ad.
Yeah.
Because it might over index in Dallas and we're in Oklahoma City, and I don't care about serving Dallas one lick. But what we're looking for is we're looking for the attention of people. What is grasping somebody's attention, keeping them there for a few seconds. And then once we know what over indexes on attention, well, then we just take money and turn it into an ad. We say, all right, well, we want a 15-mile radius around this spot. We want to advertise to these people, because like since the Atlas change or whatever the marketing change was on Facebook, targeting has pretty much gone to the wayside. And so
Yeah.
you have to allow the creative to be the targeting.
Yeah.
And so in order for that to happen, you got to be producing a lot of stuff. I mean, it's like what Phil Knight has talked about for 100 years, that Nike isn't a shoe company. Nike's a marketing company who happens to sell shoes.
Yeah.
And I think the same should be said for every business now, because the TikTokification and Instagram world that we live in is, if we're as small businesses, as solopreneurs, as entrepreneurs, as people in business, if we're not dictating the marketing behind what we're doing, then you're just another white noise. You're just another piece. If you're not a person, connecting with another person, it's white noise lost to the ether. So we almost have to become our own home service influencers to such a degree that that's how we determine what is going to work as an ad.
I love that. Yeah, the becoming one of your becoming a home service influencer yourself. And I think was just talking to a client before I got on here. I told you I was running late, so I was talking to Billy Klein, and we were talking about personal brand, and it's very important to me. It's very important to him. But I said, and we've built the software recently to help our clients be able to have a professional interviewer, and so they got to go to a scheduled 1 hour call each week to get questions asked about their personal and business related stuff, and then be able to repurpose that content, chop it up, get it out there. And I just said, I was asking him, I was like, why isn't like personal brand more important to these contractors? I just don't get it. And he just said, like they just want to like hide behind the business. Like they don't want to put themselves out there. And I just said, look, I know, but like, do they not see the writing on the wall? Do they not see that things are about to get much harder? Google's monopoly is going away. Everything's going to be spread between multiple platforms. Mm-hmm. So your audience is going to be so spread, but out there in the universe, that like, what are you going to do to stick out? What are you going to do to be memorable? And I just said, look, there's no difference between your personal brand and a business brand. Like they're both your identity. They're they're both you, right? It's your reputation. It's just one is what you do behind closed door at home. One's what you do at business, but the people in the community don't care either way. It's still you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and I think the thing where I get real giddy about this is, so we're in that middle market. There's been in Oklahoma, at least, there was kind of a great divide. And there still is, but now we had a couple of giants in our market. And there was a gap between, they were like 50 and 60 million a piece. And then there was a gap down to like the 10 to 15. And then there's really, no one, and there's a bunch of, around $5 million companies. And then when private equity swept through, I mean, gosh, it feels like everybody and their dog is pretty well gone, as far as privately held businesses that were around that 10 to 15 range. And then the two giants, they sold as well. And so I look around and I think, okay, there's an opportunity here, because private equity, talk about that performance marketing side of things.
Yeah.
Private equity at the core of it, because a lot of times once PE rolls through, and I would happily be proven wrong here. So, but just having seen it, through a couple of my buddies and just, through the market, once that 2 or 3 year work contract is done, the operator is the most expensive person to keep in place. And so after that 2 or 3 year work agreement's done, operator gets shelled out. And then now the heartbeat of that business is being run by a private equity firm who's not checking, who's not there every day,
Right.
who's not putting their finger on the pulse. And so as far as a home service influencer is concerned, like Jonathan, your superpowers, like if you were to donate to a local sports team or donate to, the city or whatever, and you show up, people know who you are.
Right.
People are, yep, we got him. Same with me. It's like, if I show up, it's me, it's the guy they've seen on their TV, on their Instagram, on the billboards doing a funny pose. And so we have the power to be local celebrity. Whereas, private equity, I don't think they're going to spend the money to do that, because that's putting eggs in the basket of a person who doesn't have a lot of times financial interest in the success of that business.
Yeah.
And so the companies that are, solopreneur to us in the middle market now, there is yes, the content matters more than it ever has been, but because of how we consume content now, the quality of content matters less than it ever has. We can watch selfie camera videos from an iPhone 12 are good enough in today's age. If the content is there, if you're resonating with people, you don't need a professional setup. You need $100 DJI microphone and your cell phone, and you can start making videos and start over indexing yourself to the local market. And so there's an opportunity where these big guys, the big private equity firms, they're not going to play the game. And by the time they realize it's time to play the game, I think that we're going to be so far ahead that it's not even going to matter. Because that's like my take on why I'm not scared to tell people to start making content and start making YouTube videos, even in our own market. I mean, we've got a couple thousand hours worth of YouTube videos out there.
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet that people are going to give up far before they even reach where we're at.
Yeah.
But the difference that it's made in our business and the cost per acquisition, it's just driven down cost per acquisition to a crazy degree, because we have the trust. We've been in their home telling them, hey, here's why we charge what we charge. Like I made a video. I mean, talk about I'm going to scoot over just a little bit here. The sun is creeping in on me. We had a video that we made where I did basically 20 minutes of why we charge what we charge. And I broke down the margin on everything. So I said, okay, an install costs $10,000. We on parts and materials on this install are going to be about 30%. Labor is going to be about 10%, and went through and showed the profit dollars. And we released that on YouTube, on Facebook, and on TikTok. Facebook and YouTube, it did great. We reached our desired audience. Homeowners saw it; they really appreciated it. TikTok, it turned into a war zone. We had everybody, all the HVAC technicians and their mother came out telling us either one, we're not charging enough, or two, we're raping people. One of the two, and it was nothing in between. Yeah. But the reality of it is it got attention. And so I think there's an opportunity here to capture attention in your local market in a way that there never has been. All it takes is the willingness to set up a selfie camera and start talking, because people want to know. I mean, ultimately, yeah, people want to know who they're doing business with. And I think now more than ever, we thrive on parasocial relationships. Like I have known you. I feel like I've known you for years because I've watched your stuff.
Right.
And so the parasocial side of it is that, we can pick up and start talking like we're friends. In the same way, we can do that with a homeowner.
Yeah.
We can make our company, our brand, our person the thing that somebody resonates with and why they choose us.
Man, I love everything you're saying. I hope everyone hears this and decides to make that shift and that change. You know, and like Tucker was saying, you're probably going to give up before you would even get to the place that y'all are at. You know, like and the thing is, what you're saying about private equity is this. A lot of people are concerned about private equity, what they're doing to their market, and oh, they've got these deep pockets, do whatever. They have deep pockets to go buy leads, and all they're trying to do is acquire every lead that they can. Those leads, the price is getting driven up so much right now, I think, by some like made up falsified numbers, especially on the Google side. I think the traffic's not really there like Google's saying is there, and they're still almost like the leads are being fabricated to some extent. And we don't know. I mean, the searches, the billion or 2 billion searches a month or a day on ChatGPT right now, they used to be somewhere, right? They used to be coming on Google's platform. So I think it's going to get harder, but the PE groups aren't going to play the game that Tucker's saying. They're not going to do the local stuff. They're not going to do the video content stuff. They're going to go out and buy leads, right? And ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Gronk, they're all going to sell leads next year. They're going to do their version of PPC. Look, that's what PE is going to go after. They're going to go buy every lead they can. I'd like to tell people like this. It's a pie chart. Look at the pie chart. 4 to 6% of that pie chart needs you right now. Your market is only 4 to 6% that has an air conditioned, plumbing, electrical problem. The 95% is what you need to go focus on. PE groups only going to focus on the 4 to 6% forever. That's what they're going to go, no matter what it costs them, they're going to go buy those customers that are in that cycle right then and there. Not to say you don't want to be there, right? You want to be there, but you have to go focus on that 95%. They live in your backyard. They own a home. They just don't need you right now. But go out there and be a local celebrity and get their attention.
Well, and hot take is so this is I just love telling people this year. We don't pay. The only Google ad that we pay for is our branded keyword. So our Yarbrough Sons, that's the only thing. Now we participate in local service ads because that's a whole different deal. But as far as PPC is concerned, we opt not. We've seen ourselves out of that for about the last year and a half, and it hadn't hurt our business a single.
So listen, everybody here, and just so y'all are clear on what Tucker just said. The PPC game that they do, they only buy their branded name, right? So somebody searches for Yarbrough Sons. They want to make sure that a competitor is not trying to confuse them or trick them, that they've earned that brand equity. They search for their name. They want to make sure they're there. They are not buying keywords for AC repair, furnace replacement. They're not playing those games. They don't have to, because they have built enough brand equity where people are coming to them. They're already positioned and ready and know who Yarbrough Sons are before they ever have used them before. And you don't get there by buying your leads from Angie's List and Yelp and Google and wherever. You have to go earn that brand equity and buy that attention, and you're renting the attention on PPC. You're buying the attention and earning the attention whenever you go out and produce video content and are very transparent with them.
And, branding, that's one of the things that I think is the hardest conversation to have, because it's, both sides of it take money. That's the reality of it. PPC takes money. Building a brand takes money. But the thing that I think, I'm a huge Pat McAfee fan. I'm a huge sports nut. I've been watching Pat for 100 years. And one of the things that he talks about when guys are going through contract negotiations is, don't go chasing Mo money. Don't leave you for show money, chasing Mo money, because you might end up with no money. And I think that applies to the branding game. Branding is expensive early, cheap later. Like Coca-Cola, for example, they spent all their money. They still spend a lot in marketing, but they spent most of the lion's share of their money as far as percent of revenue in the early days of Coca-Cola. I mean, take Nike for that example. Today, it's pennies. It's nothing because they can put out an ad. They can remain just top of mind enough that they are now penetrating to a degree where their cost per acquisition is nothing.
That's right.
And we are starting to see that downslope for us as well, where we've been putting so much money in the branding basket, and it never stops. But that cost per acquisition, because we're not participating in things like PPC, we're not participating in things like generic direct mail campaigns. We are then able to just funnel people towards our branded channels, which then we don't have to pay for once they convert via a branded channel. And so I think branding is expensive early, cheap later, whereas I think the the short-term view, a lot of times when it comes to buying leads, is it's that trackable thing that we were just talking about. It's okay, I know if I put $100 in,
Yeah.
I'm going to get $1,000 out, and that's an exchange I'm willing to do. And that works as long as, like what we've talked about, as long as Google remains the monopoly, as long as that remains the only way that customers find and convert and transact. But we're seeing that deteriorate. I mean, by the day, with GPT, Perplexity, yeah, with all of them,
Yeah.
we're seeing that start to just collapse because, well, now when I go to search, and I think a Searchlight, they put out a deal just the other day, where they were showing the average cost or the average ticket of where a customer came from.
Yep.
And GPT, they ran a 3-month report on it, and GPT was reporting, not GPT wasn't reporting, but they were reporting that GPT customers, people who came through a conversation with an LLM, were converting at 2 to 3x what Google and any of the other means were. And so you're getting a higher intent person on GPT. I think the reality of it is especially as millennials come into home ownership, millennials have grown up in the social age. And so now I think the oldest millennials are somewhere around like 45, 46, something like that, I
Yeah.
think. And as they're moving into that, final home, they're starting to get into their
Yeah.
final house. Um, there's still an itch there of DIY. They want to see if they can do it. And that's one of the things that I push back on contractors a lot of times is we have videos showing you how to replace your capacitor, showing you how to
Yeah.
replace your contactor. And the reason for that is it's a pretty complex task. And most people, if they're only handy with a hammer, they're not going to go replacing their contactor. But they want to, one, see how difficult the process is, two, see if they could do it. And then, quoting Marcus Sheridan again, is at that point, then they're going to choose, if they decide they can't do it, they're going to choose to go with the company who told them the truth the fastest.
That's right. And look, and that is a negative review that I see often over the years is like, yeah, it was a great company. They were super nice. But they overcharged me. They charged me $400 to come change a part. When I looked the capacitor part up, it was, $40 I could get it for. And I'm just like, right then I'm just sitting there going, that's because you weren't transparent. You didn't educate that person on that. The person that came out there, like, you pay them a good wage and that they had to go to school and they had to learn this stuff and the tools and that truck that you have. And there's got tires that need to be replaced. And there's a lot that goes into run a business. So it's not just being transparent with your staff. You need to try to be as transparent as you can with your future customers of tomorrow, because they're going to question you and everything. And now with AI being as easy as it is, they can just snap a photo of something to go, how much is this? Or what does this, part consist of?
Yeah. And that's, just shameless, selfish plug, but like, go look at our blog page, our homeowner tips on yarbroughsons.com. And you'll see, so we have a deal where we basically do like it's a yard sign post. And a yard sign post is our technicians have taken a picture of the yard sign. It's a social media worthy picture, meaning it has them or the truck or the homeowner or the house or something in it.
Okay.
And then we tell the whole story of what happened on that service call. We leave out the customer's name, we leave out the address, but we share, hey, Tucker showed up, he found XYZ, he did XYZ, here's what it cost to do it. Boom, here's the full price breakdown of the invoice. And then we go into the resolution and how it happened. And then, here recently we've been able to track 5-star reviews that come through on those yard signs. So then we tag the 5-star review in there. And so sharing the full journey, well, let's be honest, that's probably not going to get a whole lot of traffic from anyone other than a high intent search.
That's right.
And so that's who we're after, is like, I think PPC is that very top funnel. And there's sometimes a shortcut to the bottom of the funnel, and that's how it's worked for a long time. Is you've been able to skip consideration and I can't remember what the other one was, but consideration. You've been able to skip that. You've just been able to convert from awareness down to conversion, and that's that's kind of bastardizing the whole customer journey. And it's been a shortcut we've lived in for the last 15 years. Whereas now, because I think we're going back to more of an Ogilvy style marketing, we have to prove to that customer, not just once, not just twice, but over and over and over again, that we are who we say we are and that we're going to stand behind what we do. And the only way that we can show them that we are who we say we are is a mountain of evidence. not just 5-star reviews, not just here's our pricing, but a combination of the two showing here's what happened at this house, here's how much we charged, and here was the outcome. And by doing that, we're strengthening our middle funnel, that consideration, because once somebody reads that, I just have a undying belief that we're gonna get to close on that customer, because they've spent the time, they've seen it. It's not the most flashy. It's not going to be the thing that takes them from top to bottom just immediately, but it is that thing that continually shows people that we are who we say we are, and we're going to show up in the way that we say we're going to.
Yeah, and that's what your brand is, and that's what I think people get a misconception of brand, and they think it's your truck wrap or your logo or your whatever, and it's not. It's what you just said there. It's when people. I like to give the analogy of like the dog with its tail wagging when the owner is coming home. But if you can get if you can get a new customer that's never used you before to where their tail is almost wagging when you're pulling up, and that excitement is because they already know everything about you. They know what this call and experience is going to be like. They have seen enough and when they were in their research phase that they know what your tech's going to look like. They know what the conversation is going to be like. They know what the invoice is going to be like. So like they're excited because for the first time ever, they don't feel like this is going to be going to the mechanic. And it's like, oh my God, they tell me this is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong, you know, and then if you were to go to another mechanic, there's going to be other things wrong. And so they know that it's not going to be that way. And so they're excited to see you, but that's your brand, and what people say about you when you leave, that's your brand. And y'all have done an amazing job. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I mean, and I think too, I let me see if I can, so we're still we're still rocking a sun and snowflake logo, and that was actually a logo that one of our installers who was with us for 20 years drew for us. So it's got some sentimental value.
Yeah.
But I think and I'm choosing words carefully here.
Yeah. I know where you're going with this.
It's easy to say, well, we're not converting customers because our brand is too generic. Yeah. And it's easy, I think, and it's flashy and fun to be like, well, we just need this new logo, this new caricature, this new whatever it is. The reality of it is, like, you can produce a crazy good brand with next to nothing just by showing up consistently and by being who you say you are on a consistent day-by-day basis. So like whether it's a sun and snowflake or whether it's a caricature or whatever it is, like one, you have to own it. So like if in order for you to own your business and own your brand story, you've got to rebrand and change, great, do it. But I don't think it's not necessary to do just because, well, my colors are the same as 6 other companies in the metro area. Sure. Start making content, produce more content than them, and then it won't matter because you're the only red and blue company that people think of.
That's right.
Like, so there's 100 different ways to skin this cat. And I think because entrepreneurs, home service folks, we are very much the ADHD archetype, and we're going to chase the shiny, flashy thing. And I think the reality that we're moving towards is one where the shiny, flashy thing kind of just sizzles away in the pan. And we've got to get back to meat and potatoes, which is showing up consistently, doing the things that we say we're going to do, and proving that we are different by how we live and act on the day-to-day with our team.
100%. Well said. All right, we're getting to the end of the show, and I got some rapid fire questions. So
yes, it's great.
I know you're going to be great at this. All right. Childhood hero.
Oh, so I think so if we're going, I'll go personal and then like just the crazy look up to.
Okay.
Personal, it'd be my dad and my uncle. So dad and my uncle Rick, they many late nights working, many long days sweating in attics and just doing whatever it took to build and grow. I think having an example of 2 men who were not afraid to use their servant's towel and make sure that by the end of their lives that their servant's towel is worn and well used.
Yeah.
I mean that can't go over anymore. As far as like I think an idol of mine looking back, I think it's always just sports icons for me. So, being here in Oklahoma, it's growing up until I was in my mid-teens, we didn't have a pro sports team, and so I was an OU Sooners diehard fan, and so I think really and truly, just looking at the first person who captivated me was Adrian Peterson. Just watching him, play and figuring out, okay, what's the dedication to the craft. And I'm a Rain Man when it comes to stats and dates and all that fun stuff. And so, like, there was a time where, as my grandma, she was in the hospital for a little bit, and whenever she was battling brain cancer, and we were sitting there talking about sports, and I was probably 11 years old, and we started talking about some linebacker from the 1980s, and I started spouting off tackling and his interception rates and just everything about him. And mom and dad, they were like, Tuck, don't lie. And my uncle Rick, he was like, no, he's right. And so that year for Christmas, I got the complete anthology encyclopedia of ESPN from like 1980 to 2012. I've got it here somewhere, but it's thicker than any Bible commentary you could ever get. But I think Adrian Peterson, I think looking at, I love listening to Bob Stoops' book, just the guys who are committed to their craft to such a degree that they rise to the level of excellence that is to be aspired to and in admiration of.
Well, AP, he's one of the best that'll ever live. That's for sure. He could do
Absolutely.
things that others couldn't do.
No, yeah.
A famous person that you would invite to dinner. They can be dead or alive.
Okay. Easy answer would be Jesus. I would love to be able just to sit down and have a conversation, and talk about like servant leadership and like creating a movement that is worth following. One, but two, like just how you captivate and capture the hearts and minds of people. Whenever it would be easy for people to write you off as a crazy person, and instead you created a following that has echoed through the centuries. I think another one for me would be Theodore Roosevelt. Just the old bull moose, sit down and have a conversation with him. One, just about being willing to stand for your principles, and talk about be who you are, and do what you say you're going to do. I don't think that we've had an American leader quite like him since. I think that just the walk softly and carry a big stick. That his mountain of evidence was proof enough for what he was after. And so I think in American history, it'd be Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Both of those. It'd be an interesting dinner, the three of you. But yeah.
Heck yeah.
All right. If you had to make a career change, what would it be?
If I had to make a career change, I think
coach the Sooners.
Well, that's kind of where if it's something that I think I could succeed at, I think it would probably just be getting into the marketing consulting world, helping contractors grow their social presences. But and I don't even think I want the OU job. I think give me some successful high school offense and let me go run an offense. That's I think that would be a lot of fun. That would be a good retirement job.
Okay,
just go be an OC for somebody.
I was thinking more of the Moneyball character.
Oh gosh, that's my favorite movie. So that's way up there. Yeah, that's like one of my most quoted movies inside The Office is Moneyball.
I love it. All right, and then the last one is does Tucker believe in aliens?
Oh, hey, that's a long discussion. Yes, but I don't think they are what we think they are.
Right.
I think that less extraterrestrial, more interdimensional. Talk about the principalities and the angels and demons that we see in the book of Daniel. So I think that's the alien side. I don't think they're of this world, that's for sure. But I think it's more biblically rooted than just extraterrestrial.
I know. I think you're spot on. So, well, Tucker, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I wish you and the entire Yarbrough family nothing but success. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing. And I'd like to have you back because part 2, I'd like to maybe talk about the call by call implementation, kind of what that's done for y'all's company and so on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
100%. I'm available anytime. I've appreciated one, listening over the years, and two, just being able to hop on with you and have a great conversation.
Well, I do appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
absolutely.